So you have to be very, very cautious of how you create that. And so cheesy offers and today onlys and things like that aren't that effective in the home. And sometimes, cash discounts help. You might have something on sale. You might offer that first visit bonus. Maybe it's just like I said earlier. Maybe it's just I can get it installed by this day if we can get this booked now. But what's happened is as a result of our spring, because here we come into the spring season, which is probably money for you guys, which is why the convention's now. And so as we're building into that, but as you build into that momentum, you can use that in the home to create urgency. We've had such a response to our recent promotion. Everybody is looking at spring, but if we can do it today, I can get it now. Otherwise, I may not be able to get to this till summer. There's ways to, artfully do it and not sound cheesy and so forth. You also want to make sure that, you want to help people understand why it's important to act at a certain time, so that it comes into your presentation, and then, consider if you have some kind of limited offer that might help that. So all of those things can help us to create urgency, and creating a sense of urgency can be thought of as an act of desperation if you're not careful. When a buyer smells desperation, they kill the sale. When salespeople act out of desperation, they offer a reason behind the urgency. They try to create this not aligned with the customer's needs. And so they will shut it down. So even if it was created between the customer's problem and the salesperson's solution, attempting to create it later in the process has disastrous effects. So this goes back to the whole curiosity killed the cat. If I can find a way up front to kind of peek without pressure, hey, by the way, I'm not sure how soon you want to get this done. One of the things we've been noticing is that it seems like everybody's been responding to our advertisements, and we've got so much business scheduled in the next 6 weeks that we're actually backlogged now until well into. But depending on what, if it even makes sense, we might be able to do some things and get it done a little sooner if that might help you, make you feel better. So you can kind of propose it and then kind of back off and not even mention it again. You're piquing their interest, and you're getting them to kind of think about it. So then when you bring it up later, it doesn't feel like high pressure. Because if you don't say anything about it, all of a sudden at the end you close it and you ask them for the business, and they say, well, we just need to think about it, we're going to get quotes. Then what happens is it feels like pressure. And that's the last thing we all want. So sense of urgency doesn't exist. You think the prospect is focused on the wrong objectives or priorities, then you need to challenge them and get them onto the projects that you think. And again, a lot of it's procrastination. So asking for the business, a couple quick things on this. This is kind of when you get to a point, and this is how we help it happen on the first day when you visit. First thing you want to do is make sure the transition into asking for the business is smooth. Unfortunately, they've done tests with salespeople. They put them on monitors, and they watch their blood pressure and their pulse rates and things like that. And they have found that most people, when they ask for the business, they elevate their statistics. All of a sudden, their blood pressure comes up, their pulse rates come up, sphincter tightens, because you're putting yourself in harm's way for rejection. And so one of the things you have to learn is to be smooth in that. Because the byproduct of this tension is physiological response. It usually comes in the form of language patterns, like what you'll sometimes hear is people all of a sudden start saying, I think this is a great idea, and we can, obviously I'm overdoing it, but you get the point. When people and ah through things, does it sound like they're confident? So when you're asking for the business, you want to be confident in it and ask it clearly. You also want to maintain eye contact. I've had some people, because of the pressure of asking for business, they bury themselves in their work, in their sheets. And they're asking while they're not even looking at the homeowner. And I've done studies, post-its, and interviews with, especially older couples. I asked them, why didn't you go ahead tonight? It sounded like we had a great product. What happened? Well, the guy couldn't look me in the eye. And I figure if a guy's asking me for my money, he can't look me in the eye, I can't trust him. And that was the end of the sentence. So make sure you don't let those things get in your way. The other thing you want to be is situationally aware of when and where to close. And there's no really good way for me to tell you when to close. It's an instinctual thing. It's situational. And the only thing I can give you is advice to tell you to close too soon and too often until you develop that instinct. I had a gentleman that worked for me, his name was Joe. Joe was a great guy. Everybody loved Joe. Unfortunately, Joe was not a good salesperson. In fact, I'm pretty sure if I gave Joe a cold case of beer, he'd have a difficult time selling it at a college frat party. Right? This was not a good sales guy. But he had potential, and he was a great guy. And so what we did is work with Joe, and we taught Joe the art of being situationally aware and asking for the order. And we got Joe to close too soon, too often. I gave Joe an assignment. I said, Joe, next time you're in the home and they're telling you no, I just want you to keep asking, and you'll know you're successful with this experiment when they ask you to leave the home. Have any of you ever been asked to leave? Well, I'm not suggesting this is a good strategy. You did. But Joe said, he calls me up, and he says, okay, Ron, I just got kicked out. He said, they put up my sample bag, and they walked me in the door, and they said, I think it's time for you to leave. And I said, okay, Joe, let's talk about that. And the customer called me the next day. He was pretty upset. But I explained what I was doing, and I apologized, and I made it right by him. And luckily he was in sales, so he kind of got it. But what I was doing with Joe is I said, okay, Joe, now you've gone too far. Did you see where you probably kind of pushed it over the edge? He goes, well, it's pretty clear. I knew when I said this, boom, I was out the door. I said, so how would you feel about stopping just short of that? He goes, yeah, that's probably where I should have done. I said, okay, how far was that from where you normally go? He goes, oh, long way. I said, so the key to this experiment was you wouldn't know how far you could go until you went too far. And so it's almost like push the edge of the envelope, an aviation term that we use, and you push the edge of it to know how far you can go and then bring it back within a safe realm. And so situational awareness is just knowing when. And the way is to just ask too soon, too often, and you'll start to develop an instinct. I'm not suggesting you go out and mess up a bunch of sales, but you've got to maybe ask a little more so you can get a feel for it. You also have to learn how to pick up buying signals. Buying signals are just the visual clues that tell you they're ready. The obvious ones are they ask you questions. How soon can you guys get this installed? Is that a buying signal? Yeah. Do you guys do financing? Or do I have to pay cash? That's a buying signal. So any of those kind of questions. Taking ownership of it. Talking about it as if they own it is a good buying signal. One of the ones I notice when I work with couples is that they'll show affection with each other, not with me. That's a different kind of buying signal, right? It's different. But what they'll do, you'll see, because they've made that pact, and they're very rigid, and they're at that kitchen table, and they're, and some salespeople, I had the benefit of also being like with other salespeople riding along, observing. And so they were buried in paperwork. And it was funny, one gentleman, they're doing the paperwork, and I'm just kind of smiling and listening. All of a sudden, he puts his head down, and they start, and they're doing that back and forth. And then he put his head up, and they go, and it was back and forth like that, until finally, we did a walk away. I said, hey Jim, we gotta call the office real quick. I'm sorry, I forgot to tell you. Right in the middle, I know, but just, and we walked out. And he said, what are you doing? I said, well, we're gonna walk away because they need time to break the pact. And they're not going to break it in front of you. So let's just go out and pretend for a minute we're making a call, and now we'll go back in, and I bet you dinner that when you go in, they'll say, let's do it. We walked in, he goes, oh, sorry, folks, we just have to take that call. Okay, yeah, we're good, let's do this. And he looks at me. But sometimes they need to be able to do that. But the first meltdown of that pact is in the area of affection. And it's usually a little bit of a handhold, a little bit of a massage, a little bit of a neck rub. You'll lean in. There's those little things that tell you that they're feeling good about the decision. And the good salesman recognizes those things. You continue to ask questions to build the momentum, and then of course you have to anticipate buyer's remorse. And as you're doing a warm down, make sure that you've recovered everything that needs to be covered. They feel good about the decision, because as soon as they start telling their friends and their relatives about what they've done, they're going to say, "You did what? You spent what? You could go to Home Depot and get all that for." They're going to start talking about it. So you have to set them up. I had one salesman. He was in the home. He was very clever. He got a prescription bottle, and he filled it with M&M candies, and he put a label on it and typed "Buyer's remorse pills. Take 2 in the morning and call me in the morning. Take 2, call me in the morning." And when he was done, he would actually sit down with them and say, "Now, I just want you to know, as you start to tell your friends and family members about the decision you made, which I think that's a brilliant decision. I think it's going to be great. You're going to love it. But what you'll find is, I don't know whether it's jealousy or whatever, but they'll try to talk you out of it. And so, it's normal, and I just want you to understand that that's a normal process. And you've made a good decision. I believe you should stay with it. But just in case, I brought these for you. And they're called buyer's remorse pills, and my number's on here. So If anybody tries to talk at it, just take 2 of these and give me a call in the morning. And I'll open it up and they'll say, oh, it's just M&Ms. But, they'll have a chuckle with it. But it's little things that help people to remember and have a little fun, but you've got to set that up. And then here's another thing, is you have to understand that the pressure that is created in a selling situation is not necessarily what you're wanting them to do, but by the time to perform it. So let me give you an example. We're in the home, and I'm in front of the couple, and I've got my design, and I've got the quotation, and I say, listen, based on everything you've told me you're looking to accomplish, I can't see any reason why this installation isn't going to solve all of that anymore. I think we need to make a really good decision. So let's just review the scope of work, and we're going to do this, we're going to do that, we're going to install this day. Makes sense. Really, the only question we have to decide is, did you want to go ahead and put down 20%, or are you okay with 30%? So that'd be a secondary question. And now realize some of you are saying, well, we don't take less than 50%. Then do 50 or 60, right? So work with me. So now we need you to go and write the check today. Go ahead and get it out. Get your check out. Right now. Let's do it. Okay, a little bit of pressure, right? What if I then go, hey, listen, based on what we've talked about, I believe this installation will solve all the problems that you have organizationally and more.